Nia Carter never imagined that serving champagne at an elegant gala would destroy her dignity in front of a room full of strangers. When Graham Whitmore, the privileged CEO's son, humiliated her with 5 words she'd never forget, declaring he'd never love a poor black woman, she made herself a promise. No one would ever make her feel small again. But fate had other plans, forcing them into 2 weeks of unavoidable proximity where every glance carried the weight of his cruelty and her quiet strength. What Graham didn't know was that his careless words would cost him everything he thought mattered: his mother's approval, his carefully constructed life, and the respect he'd never actually earned. As Naya rebuilt her walls brick by brick, Graham began to crumble, realizing too late that the woman he'd dismissed possessed more courage in her silence than he'd shown in his entire privileged life. Now, caught between the life he was born into and the love he never saw coming, Graham faces an impossible choice, and Nia holds all the power. If you want to see how this story of redemption and second chances unfolds, drop a comment below and tell me what city you're watching from. Let's build a community from all around the world. The afternoon sun sliced through the tall windows of the grand ballroom at the Meridian Hotel, turning dust particles into tiny stars. Nia Carter moved through the light with practiced efficiency, her black server's uniform crisp despite the heat building under the crystal chandeliers. Around her, staff rushed in controlled chaos, polishing stemware, positioning centerpieces, testing sound systems. "Nia, can you double-check the head table?" Ms. Donnelly called from across the room, clipboard in hand. "Whitmore Corporate wants everything perfect." "On it," Nia replied, her voice steady and calm. She'd worked at the Meridian for 3 years, long enough to know that perfect meant triple-checking everything and staying invisible while doing it. She approached the long table positioned on the raised platform at the front of the ballroom. White linens, gold-rimmed plates, fresh roses in low crystal vases. She adjusted a fork that was slightly out of alignment, then checked the name cards: Whitmore, Whitmore, Sloan, Jenkins. Behind her, the double doors swung open with force. "This is unacceptable!" The voice cut through the ambient noise, sharp, entitled, impatient. Nia didn't turn immediately. She finished straightening the last place setting, then looked up. A man stood near the entrance, scanning the room with obvious displeasure. He wore a dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, maybe 2 months. His light brown hair was styled carefully, his jaw tight. He pointed at a server carrying a tray of champagne flutes. "Those aren't the right glasses. I specifically requested the Riedel crystal." The server, a college kid named Marcus, froze. I can check with..." "Don't check, fix it." The man's blue eyes swept the room until they landed on Ms. Donnelly. "I need to speak with whoever's in charge." Donnelly smoothed her expression into professional neutrality and approached. "I'm the banquet manager. How can I help you, Mr. Whitmore?" So that was Graham Whitmore. Nia had heard the name, CEO's son, operations something or other. She'd pictured someone older. He couldn't be more than 28. "The setup is behind schedule," Graham said, gesturing broadly. "The gala starts in 90 minutes. "We're on track," Donnelly assured him. "Everything will be ready." Graham pulled out his phone, already distracted. "It needs to be flawless. There are board members coming tonight." Nia turned back to her work, checking the water glasses. From the corner of her eye, she saw Jules, her co-worker and friend, rolling her eyes from across the room. Jules was petite, fierce, and had no patience for entitled guests. Nia caught her eye and gave a small shake of her head. "Don't." The next hour passed in a blur. Staff moved like dancers, everyone knowing their role. Nia coordinated the appetizer stations, confirmed dietary restrictions with the kitchen, and made sure the bar was fully stocked. She was good at this work, good at anticipating needs, solving problems before they became visible. By 6:30, guests began arriving. Nia stationed herself near the head table, ready to serve. The ballroom glowed now, filled with soft music and the murmur of expensive conversation, men in dark suits, women in cocktail dresses that shimmered under the lights. Nia became what she needed to be: efficient, courteous, invisible. She poured water for the guests at the head table, moving smoothly from seat to seat. Graham sat at the center, flanked by older executives. He was laughing at something a silver-haired man said, playing the part of the charming heir. "Excuse me?" An older woman at the table lifted her glass slightly. "Could I get sparkling water instead?" "Of course," Nia said with a polite smile. She returned to the service station, filled a fresh glass with San Pellegrino, and brought it back. The woman accepted it with a gracious nod. Nia moved to clear the still water. "Wait," Graham's voice stopped her. "That's not what she asked for." Nia paused, the glass in her hand. "I'm sorry?" Graham gestured to the water. "She asked for Perrier. That's San Pellegrino." The woman looked between them, suddenly uncomfortable. "Oh, it's fine, really." "It's not fine," Graham insisted. His face had flushed slightly. Two of his colleagues were watching now. "If we can't get basic requests right, what does that say about the service?" Nia set the glass down gently. Her pulse kicked up, but her expression stayed calm. "I apologize. I'll get Perrier right away." She walked back to the station with measured steps, her spine straight. She could feel eyes on her. At the bar she found the Perrier, poured it carefully, and returned to the table. "Here you are," she said, setting the glass in front of the woman. "I apologize for the confusion." The woman smiled kindly. "Thank you, dear." Graham didn't look at Nia. He was leaning toward his colleague, saying something in a low voice. The colleague laughed. Nia turned to leave. "You know what?" Graham's voice carried just far enough. He wasn't shouting, but he wasn't being quiet either. "This is the problem. People taking jobs they're not qualified for." Nia's hand tightened on her tray, but she kept moving. Honestly. Graham shifted in his chair, addressing his table mates, but speaking loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "There's a standard here. My family built this reputation on excellence, and we can't maintain that if—" He paused, then said it clearly, almost casually. "I'd never love a poor black woman." The words hung in the air. Nia stopped walking. Around them, conversation faltered. A woman at the next table looked down at her plate. One of the executives at Graham's table coughed softly. Jules, standing near the kitchen doors, went completely still, her face stricken. Nia didn't turn around. She didn't make a scene. She finished her walk to the service station, set down her tray with steady hands, and picked up her next task. Inside, something cracked, but on the outside, she remained perfectly composed. She served the next course. She smiled when required. She answered questions. She moved through the rest of the gala like a professional, because that's what she was. It was only when the event finally wound down, when the last guests had trickled out and the ballroom lights came up harsh and bright, that she allowed herself to step into the service hallway. The door closed behind her. The sudden quiet was overwhelming. Nia pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes. Her hands started to tremble. She curled them into fists. "Don't cry at work. Don't cry at work. Don't—" The door opened. Jules slipped through. Nia opened her eyes. Jules looked furious and heartbroken at the same time. "Did he really say that?" Jules whispered. Nia nodded once. Her throat was too tight for words. Jules stepped closer, her voice fierce. "That's not okay. That was racism, Nia, out loud, in front of everyone." "I know." Nia's voice came out steady somehow. "But I need this job." "So we report him. We go to Donnelly or HR or—" "And then what?" Nia straightened, forcing herself to breathe normally. "He's the CEO's son. They'll find a reason to cut my hours or fire me, and I can't." She stopped herself. "I can't risk it." Jules looked like she wanted to argue, but she'd worked at the Meridian long enough to know Nia wasn't wrong. This was how it worked. Power protected power. "I hate this," Jules said quietly. "Me too." They stood there for a moment, two women in identical uniforms under fluorescent lights, sharing the exhaustion of a truth they both understood. "You want me to wait? With you for your bus?" Jules offered. Nia shook her head. "I'm okay. Go home." Jules hesitated, then squeezed Nia's hand. "Text me when you get home?" "Promise." After Jules left, Nia changed out of her uniform in the staff locker room. She pulled on jeans and an old sweater, tied her hair back, and collected her things. By the time she walked out the employee entrance, the night air felt cold against her face. The bus stop was 2 blocks away. She walked with her arms wrapped around herself, her mind circling the same sentence over and over. "I'd never love a poor black woman." She boarded the number 12 bus, found a seat near the back, and stared out the window as the city slid past. Bright lights, dark streets, people living their lives, unaware of the small cruelties happening in rooms they'd never enter. By the time she reached her stop, her hands had stopped shaking. She walked the 3 blocks to the apartment complex where she lived with her Aunt Loretta. The building was old but clean, the kind of place where neighbors knew each other's names. Nia climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor and unlocked the door quietly. The apartment was small, a living room that doubled as Loretta's bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and Nia's room barely big enough for a bed and dresser. But it was home. It was safe. "That you, baby?" Loretta called from her recliner. "It's me." Nia dropped her bag by the door and kicked off her shoes. Loretta looked up from the television, her brown eyes sharp despite her 64 years. She wore her favorite purple robe and had her feet up, but Nia knew her knees had been bad today. They always were when the weather turned cold. "How was work?" "Fine." Nia moved into the kitchen, opening the fridge. "You eat dinner?" "Had some soup. There's leftovers if you want." Nia wasn't hungry, but she pulled out the container anyway. She needed something to do with her hands. "Nia," she turned. Loretta was watching her with that look, the one that saw through everything. "What happened?" "Nothing. Just a long shift." "Baby, I raised you. Don't lie to me." Nia's shoulders dropped. She set down the soup container and leaned against the counter. "A guest was rude." "How rude?" "The kind of rude that doesn't matter because he's rich." Nia tried to smile. "It's fine. I'm fine." Loretta pushed herself up from the recliner with effort, crossing to the kitchen. She placed one weathered hand on Nia's cheek. "Listen to me," she said softly. "I know you need that job. I know we got bills. But don't ever, ever let someone teach you to accept disrespect. You hear me?" Nia's eyes burned. She nodded. "You're worth more than their money," Loretta continued. "You remember that." "I will." Loretta kissed her forehead, then returned to her chair. Nia heated up the soup she didn't want and ate it mechanically while they watched an old sitcom rerun. Loretta dozed off halfway through. Nia covered her with a blanket, turned off the TV, and retreated to her room. She lay in the dark, still fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. "I'd never love a poor black woman." The words replayed. Each time they cut fresh. She thought about all the times she'd smiled through condescension, all the times she'd been professional while being treated as less than human. She thought about her ex-boyfriend, Marcus. Not Marcus the server, but Marcus who'd promised her everything 3 years ago, then disappeared when his parents made it clear a black girl with no college degree wasn't welcome in their family. She'd rebuilt herself after that. Slowly, carefully. And tonight, with one sentence, she'd been reminded that some people would always see her as less. Nia rolled onto her side, pulled her knees to her chest, and made a promise in the dark. "I will not be anyone's target again." Morning came too soon. Nia's alarm went off at 6:30. She silenced it and forced herself out of bed, her body heavy with exhaustion that wasn't just physical. She showered, dressed, made coffee. Loretta was still sleeping, so Nia left a note on the counter. "Making an extra shift. Love you. Anne." She caught the early bus and arrived at the Meridian by 8. The hotel lobby was already busy, tourists checking out, business travelers grabbing coffee. Nia took the service elevator down to the basement level where staff prepared for the day. The morning briefing was held in a small, windowless conference room. Nia slid into a seat near the back. Jules arrived a moment later and sat beside her. "You okay?" Jules whispered. "Working on it." Ms. Donnelly entered, and the room quieted. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, efficient and fair, but not warm. "Morning, everyone," Donnelly said, consulting her tablet. "Quick update. The Whitmore Corporation has booked an extended series of events with us for the next 2 weeks. Corporate lunches, dinner meetings, a couple of receptions. We'll be running a dedicated team for their account." Nia's stomach dropped. "Graham Whitmore will be on site daily to oversee operations," Donnelly continued. "I need consistent professional service. Nia, Jules, Marcus, you 3 will be primary for the Whitmore events, with backup from the regular rotation." Nia's throat tightened. She couldn't breathe properly. Jules grabbed her hand under the table. After the briefing, Nia approached Donnelly near the door. "Ms. Donnelly, could I request a different assignment?" Donnelly frowned. "Why?" There was an issue last night, and I think it would be better if—" "What kind of issue?" Naya hesitated. If she explained, she risked more scrutiny. If she didn't, she'd be stuck working around Graham Whitmore every day for 2 weeks. "It's nothing I can't handle," she said finally. Donnelly's expression softened slightly. "Look, Naya, you're one of my best. I need you on this account. Shifts are tight right now, and I can't afford to shuffle people around. Can you manage?" It wasn't really a question. "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Nia returned to the staff area, her mind racing. Jules followed. "This is bullshit," Jules hissed. "You should tell her what he said. And watch them protect him?" "No." Nia pulled her uniform from her locker. "I just have to get through 2 weeks. I can do that." "You shouldn't have to." "But I do." Nia met her friend's eyes. "So I will." Across the city, Graham Whitmore sat in his corner office at Whitmore Enterprises, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. He'd barely slept. The gala had been a success by all measurable standards. The board members had been impressed. The clients were happy. His mother had even sent him a rare text of approval. Well done. But something gnawed at him. "Graham," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Your mother wants to see you." He closed his laptop. "On my way." Evelyn Whitmore's office was on the top floor, expansive, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She stood near the windows when he entered, her posture perfect, her silver hair styled impeccably. "Close the door," she said without turning. Graham obeyed. Evelyn finally turned to face him. Her expression was unreadable. "The gala went well." "Thank you. But we need to discuss your image." Graham fought the urge to sigh. "Mother." "The board dinner is in 10 days, Evelyn continued. "Key investors will be there. I need you polished, focused, and appropriate." "I am appropriate. You're single, and people talk. It doesn't look stable." Evelyn returned to her desk, sitting with practiced grace. "Mara Sloan reached out to me yesterday." Graham stiffened. "Did she?" "She's interested in reconnecting. I think that would be wise." "I don't." "Graham," Evelyn's voice sharpened, "this company requires a certain image. You're the face of the next generation. Mara is suitable, educated, from a good family, understands our world. Think about it." "I have thought about it. The answer is no." "Don't be childish. This is about optics." Graham stood. "I have work to do." "Graham," but he was already leaving, closing the door firmly behind him. He took the elevator down, his jaw tight with frustration. His mother's control was suffocating. It always had been. Every decision filtered through what looks right and what people will think. He'd learned to navigate it, to play the part. But lately, something felt wrong. Hollow. By late afternoon, Graham found himself back at the Meridian Hotel. The Whitmore corporate account meant he'd be spending most of his days here for the next few weeks, coordinating meetings and maintaining quality control. He walked through the lobby toward the event spaces, checking his phone, and then he looked up. Across the lobby, near the concierge desk, stood the server from last night, the one he'd... Graham stopped walking. She was speaking with a hotel guest, her expression pleasant and professional. She hadn't seen him yet. Graham's chest tightened with something uncomfortable. Shame, maybe, or guilt. "I'd never love a poor black woman." The words echoed in his memory, and suddenly they sounded different, crueler, more vicious than they'd felt in the moment when he'd been embarrassed and defensive and showing off for colleagues who didn't matter. The woman looked up. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, Graham saw something in her expression, recognition, wariness, and something harder he couldn't name. Then she turned away, her jaw tight, and disappeared down a corridor. Graham stood in the middle of the lobby, suddenly very aware that he'd made a mistake, a real one. That evening, the ballroom was being reset for a smaller event, a Whitmore networking mixer for about 50 people. Nia moved through the space with mechanical precision, placing cocktail napkins at each high-top table, checking that the bar was properly stocked. Her wrist ached from carrying trays all day, but she ignored it. Pain was manageable. What had happened last night, that was harder to ignore. "Table 7 needs more chairs," Jules called from across the room. Nia nodded and headed to the storage area. She was pulling out a folding chair when she heard footsteps behind her. "Excuse me." She knew that voice. She turned slowly. Graham Whitmore stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable in a way that seemed foreign to him, like discomfort was a language he didn't speak. Can I help you with something? Naya asked, her tone perfectly professional. I wanted to, he cleared his throat. About last night. If what I said upset you, I apologize. Nia stared at him. The words hung in the air between them, thin and insufficient. If what you said upset me, she repeated quietly. Yes, I was frustrated with the service and I may have spoken harshly. Don't minimize it, Graham blinked. I'm sorry? Nia set down the chair. She faced him fully, her spine straight, her voice calm but firm. You said you'd never love a poor black woman. You said it in front of a room full of people. You didn't say it because you were frustrated with service. You said it because you wanted to put me in my place. His face flushed. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. Nia picked up the chair again. But thank you for the non-apology. I have work to do. She walked past him, carrying the chair back to the ballroom. Her heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. No one talked to Graham Whitmore like that. She could tell by the stunned silence he'd left in his wake. But she was done accepting cruelty wrapped in politeness. The rest of the shift passed without incident. Graham kept his distance, though Nia caught him watching her a few times from across the room. She ignored him and focused on her work. By the time the event ended and staff began breaking down the setup, Nia's exhaustion had settled deep in her bones. She changed quickly in the locker room, eager to get home. Jules caught her at the employee exit. I saw him corner you earlier. He tried to apologize. Tried. It was the kind of apology that protects him, not the kind that acknowledges what he did. Nia pushed open the door. Cold night air hit her face. I'm not interested in making him feel better about being cruel. Jules walked with her to the bus stop. Some of the other staff were talking. Sarah from catering said you must have done something to provoke him. Nia's jaw tightened. Of course she did. I shut it down, but you know how people are. Yeah, I know. The bus arrived. Nia climbed aboard, found a seat, and watched the city blur past the windows. Her mind was already running numbers. Bills due, Loretta's prescriptions, the leak in the bathroom that needed fixing. She couldn't afford to lose this job, but she also couldn't afford to lose herself. When she finally reached home, Loretta was in the kitchen trying to open a jar of pasta sauce. Her hands shook with the effort, arthritis making the simple task impossible. Let me, Nia said quickly, taking the jar. I had it, Loretta protested. I know. Nia opened the jar easily and handed it back. But let me help anyway. Loretta studied her face. You're tired. Long day? The same rich man from last night? Nia hesitated, then nodded. He'll be around for 2 weeks. Part of a corporate contract. And you can't avoid him? Not without losing hours I can't afford to lose. Loretta set down the jar with more force than necessary. I hate that you have to... She stopped, her expression pained. If I could work, if I wasn't... Stop. Nia crossed to her aunt and took her hands gently. You raised me when my mama couldn't. You gave me everything. This is my turn to take care of you. Okay? Loretta's eyes shimmered. You're too good, baby. I learned from the best. They made dinner together, simple pasta with sauce, garlic bread, a side salad. They ate at the small kitchen table, and Loretta told stories about her day. The neighbor's cat that kept sneaking into the hallway, the game show she'd watched, the phone call from her sister in Atlanta. Normal things, good things. But later, when Nia lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. The ground beneath her feet felt less stable than it had a week ago. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Morning came with rain. Nia stood at the bus stop, her jacket pulled tight, checking her phone for any schedule changes. The Meridian had texted, lunch event moved to 11:30. Please arrive by 10 for setup. She sighed and pocketed her phone. The bus was late. By the time she reached the hotel, she had to jog from the stop, arriving breathless and damp. She changed into her uniform quickly and headed to the service area. The lunch setup was already underway. A catering delivery had arrived. Rolling. Carts stacked with equipment, boxes of linens, trays of glassware. The loading dock was organized chaos. Nia, can you help Marcus with the centerpieces? Donnelly called. They're on cart 3. Got it. Nia made her way through the crowded space. Cart 3 was near the freight elevator, a tall metal cart loaded with flower arrangements and decorative pieces. Marcus was already there, trying to maneuver it toward the door. Hey, I'll help, Nia said, grabbing one side. Thanks, this thing weighs a ton. They began rolling it forward. The wheel caught on something, a raised lip in the floor where the concrete had cracked. The cart jolted. Careful, someone shouted. But it was too late. The top tier of the cart tilted dangerously. A stack of heavy glass vases began to slide. Nia saw it happening in slow motion. Marcus was directly in the path. Without thinking, she lunged forward and yanked him backward by his shirt. The vases crashed down. One hit the concrete and shattered. Another struck Nia's forearm with brutal force before tumbling away. Pain exploded up her arm. She gasped, stumbling back. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Marcus's face had gone white. "I'm fine," Nia managed, cradling her arm. The impact point was already swelling, an angry red that would turn purple soon. A small crowd had gathered. Donnelly pushed through, her expression sharp with concern. "What happened?" "The cart. Vases fell. Nia pulled me out of the way," Marcus stammered. Donnelly looked at Nia's arm. "We need to get ice on that. Come with me." "I can still work," Nia said quickly. "Not until we ice it. Come on." From the corner of her eye, Nia saw Graham Whitmore standing near the freight elevator entrance. He must have been arriving for the event. His expression was stricken, his eyes fixed on her injured arm. Donnelly led Nia to the staff break room and retrieved an ice pack from the first aid kit. Nia pressed it to her forearm, wincing. "You probably saved Marcus from a concussion," Donnelly said quietly. "Thank you for that." "Just instinct." "Still," Donnelly paused. "Do you want me to file an injury report? Workers' comp could cover medical costs if you need to see a doctor." Nia's stomach tightened. Injury reports meant paperwork. Paperwork meant scrutiny. Scrutiny could mean reduced hours or being labeled high risk. "It's just a bruise," Nia said. "I'll be fine." Donnelly's eyes narrowed. "Nia, really, I'm okay." After a long moment, Donnelly nodded. "Keep ice on it for 20 minutes. If it gets worse, tell me." "I will." Donnelly left. Nia sat alone in the break room, the ice pack numbing her skin. Her arm throbbed with each heartbeat. The door opened. Graham stepped in, looking uncertain. "I saw what happened," he said. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "That looked... your arm." "I said I'm fine." Nia stood, keeping the ice pack in place. "I need to get back to work." Graham moved into her path, not aggressively, just enough to make her pause. "Wait." She waited, jaw tight. "What you did back there," he said slowly. "Pulling Marcus out of the way, that was brave, really brave." Nia stared at him. "People help each other, that's normal." "Not for everyone." She thought about last night, about his hollow apology, about the words he'd said that still echoed in her mind. "Excuse me," she said quietly. This time, he stepped aside. The lunch event went smoothly, despite Nia's aching arm. She served with her usual efficiency, though she had to favor her left hand. Graham didn't approach her again, but she felt his eyes on her throughout the afternoon. By evening, when she finally made it home, the bruise had darkened to deep purple. She sat at the kitchen table, icing it carefully while Loretta made tea. "Baby, what happened?" Loretta set down 2 mugs and sat across from her. "Accident at work. I'm okay." "That doesn't look okay." "It's just a bruise." Loretta reached across the table and took Nia's free hand. "You can't save everyone if you break yourself." Nia looked up, surprised by the fierceness in her aunt's voice. "I'm serious," Loretta continued. "You work too hard. You take care of me. You take care of everyone at that job. When do you take care of you?" "I'm fine, Auntie." "No, you're strong. That's different." Loretta squeezed her hand. "Strong people break too, baby. Remember that." Nia nodded, her throat tight. They drank their tea in comfortable silence. Later, Nia retreated to her room and sat on the edge of her bed, examining the bruise. It hurt, but she'd had worse. Physical pain faded. The other kind, the kind Graham Whitmore had inflicted with his words, that took longer. The next morning, Nia returned to the Meridian for an early breakfast setup. The bruise had settled into a mottled purple-green that she tried to hide under her long-sleeved uniform. She was arranging coffee service when Donnelly approached with her tablet. "Nia, I'm moving you to the evening shifts for the next 3 days," Donnelly said. "Graham Whitmore requested longer evening setups, and I need someone reliable." Nia's stomach sank. More time around Graham meant more opportunities for discomfort, but she just nodded. "Okay. The first one is tonight. Small dinner, about 20 people. 6 o'clock start. I'll be here." The day passed slowly. Nia caught the bus home, ate a quick lunch with Loretta, then napped for 2 hours before heading back to work. Her arm still ached, but the swelling had gone down. She arrived at 5:30 to find the private dining room already being set up. Jules was there, adjusting tablecloths. "Hey," Jules said, "how's the arm?" "Better. Donnelly told me you're on evening shifts now. That sucks." "It's fine." Nia picked up a stack of menus. "Let's just get through it." The dinner itself was uneventful, corporate executives discussing quarterly reports over filet mignon and expensive wine. Nia served with practiced invisibility, refilling water glasses and clearing plates. Graham was there, of course, seated near the head of the table. He was playing host, laughing at jokes, making small talk. But every so often, his gaze would drift to where Nia stood near the service station. Each time, she looked away first. After the guests left, Nia helped with breakdown. She was stacking plates when she heard footsteps behind her. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" She turned. Graham stood a few feet away, his tie loosened, looking tired. "I'm working," Nia said. "I know, but please, just a minute." Something in his tone made her pause. He didn't sound entitled right now. He sounded uncertain. "Okay," she said finally. "1 minute." Graham glanced around. The dining room was mostly empty, just Jules at the far end, breaking down the bar setup. "I keep thinking about what I said," Graham began. "At the gala, I've tried to apologize, but I don't think I did it right." "You didn't." He flinched but nodded. "You were right. I said what I said because I wanted to, I don't know, prove something to the people at that table. But that's not an excuse." Nia watched him carefully. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve a real apology, not the PR version." He met her eyes. "I'm sorry. What I said was cruel and racist and wrong. You didn't deserve it." The words settled in the space between them. Nia felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the first small crack in the wall she'd built. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for saying that." Graham looked like he wanted to say more, but Nia turned back to her work. "I need to finish," she said. "Right, of course." He left. Nia stood there for a moment, her hands still on the stack of plates, her mind churning. Jules appeared at her elbow. "Did he just apologize? Like, for real?" "I think so." "You think?" Nia shook her head. "I don't know yet. Words are easy. It's the rest that's hard." Over the next few days, a pattern emerged. Graham showed up at the hotel daily. He coordinated meetings, checked on event setups, and worked from a small office the hotel had assigned to Whitmore Corporation. And each day, he saw Nia. He didn't corner her again. He didn't hover or demand her attention. But he was different. He held doors for staff without being asked. He learned people's names, not just Nia's, but Jules, Marcus's, even the dishwashers in the back. When a delivery went wrong and the kitchen scrambled to adjust the menu, he helped carry boxes instead of standing back and supervising. Small things, consistent things, Nia noticed. She didn't trust it yet, but she noticed. On Thursday afternoon, a week after the gala, Nia was in the staff break room during her 15-minute break. She was scrolling through her phone, checking her bank balance and trying not to panic about the numbers. Her phone buzzed with a text from Loretta. "Doctor moved. My appointment to next Tuesday. Can you take me?" Nia's chest tightened. Tuesday was a big event day, a luncheon with 60 guests. Missing it would mean losing hours she couldn't afford to lose. She texted back, "I'll figure it out. Don't worry." But worry was all she felt. The door opened. Graham entered, then paused when he saw her. "Sorry, I didn't know anyone was in here," he said. "It's fine. I was just leaving." She stood, shoving her phone in her pocket. As she passed him, he spoke. "Is everything okay?" She stopped. "Why do you ask?" "You looked worried. He hesitated. "Never mind. That was intrusive." Nia studied him. He looked genuinely concerned, which was strange and unsettling. "Family thing," she said finally. "Nothing I can't handle." "If you ever need—" He stopped himself. "Sorry, I know I'm probably the last person you'd ask for help." "You're right about that." It came out sharper than she intended. Graham's expression flickered with something that looked like hurt. Nia left before she could analyze it further. That night, riding the bus home, she replayed the interaction. There had been something almost vulnerable in the way Graham had offered help, like he meant it, but didn't know how to say it without sounding patronizing. She didn't know what to do with that. At home, Loretta was already asleep in her recliner, the TV playing softly. Nia covered her with a blanket and retreated to her room. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Tuesday's appointment and lost wages, and Graham Whitmore's uncertain expression. And for the first time in a week, she felt something other than anger when she thought about him. She felt confused. Friday night brought another event, a cocktail reception for Whitmore clients. Nia worked the room with her usual grace, carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The evening passed smoothly until about an hour in, when one of the guests, a man in his 50s, red-faced and loud, grabbed Nia's arm as she walked past. "Hey, sweetheart, get me another drink." Nia gently extracted her arm. "Of course, sir, what would you like?" "Scotch, neat, and make it fast." She nodded and headed to the bar. When she returned with his drink, he took it without thanks and turned back to his conversation. 10 minutes later, he grabbed her arm again. "This isn't McAllen. I asked for McAllen." "I'm sorry, sir. We have Glenfiddich and Johnny Walker." "I don't care what you have. Get me what I asked for." His grip on her arm tightened, not enough to bruise, but enough to make her pulse spike. "Sir, I need you to let go of my arm. I'll let go when you do your job properly." "Is there a problem here?" Graham's voice cut through the ambient noise. He appeared beside them, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp. The man released Nia's arm. "Just trying to get decent service." "Ms. Carter provides excellent service," Graham said evenly, "and we don't have McAllen at this bar. If you'd like, I can have a bottle sent over from our main stock, but it will take a few minutes." The man's face reddened further. "Forget it." He walked away. Graham turned to Nia. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Nia said automatically. "He shouldn't have grabbed you like that." "It happens." "It shouldn't." Nia looked at him, surprised by the quiet anger in his voice. Not anger at her, anger on her behalf. "Thank you," she said, "for stepping in. You shouldn't have to thank me for basic decency." Something passed between them, a moment of understanding, fragile and new. Then the moment broke. Nia returned to her work and Graham returned to his guests. But later, when the event ended and Nia clocked out, she found herself thinking about the way he'd intervened. Not like a hero, not making a scene, just standing beside her, creating space. It was the smallest thing, but it mattered. Saturday morning arrived with pale sunshine and the promise of warmer weather. Nia had the day off, a rare gift. She spent the morning cleaning the apartment, doing laundry, and helping Loretta with her physical therapy exercises. By afternoon, she was sitting on the small balcony with a cup of tea, watching the neighborhood. Kids played basketball in the parking lot below. A couple walked their dog. Normal life, unfolding peacefully. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jules. "You working tomorrow?" Nia replied, "Yeah, noon to 8. Jules: "Same. Want to grab breakfast before?" Nia smiled. "Sure. 9 at Rosie's?" Jules: "Perfect." She set down her phone and closed her eyes, letting the sun warm her face. For the first time in over a week, she felt something close to calm. "You look peaceful," Loretta said from the doorway. Nia opened her eyes. "Just enjoying the quiet." Loretta settled into the second chair, moving slowly. "How's work been, really?" "Better," Nia admitted. "The man from the gala, Graham, he's been different, more respectful." "Different how?" "He apologized, a real apology this time, and he's been helping around the hotel, learning names, standing up for staff when guests are rude." Nia paused. "I don't know what to make of it. Maybe he's trying to do better. Maybe. Or maybe he's just good at performing." Loretta was quiet for a moment. "Baby, you're allowed to be careful. After what Marcus did to you, after what this man said, you earned the right to guard your heart." "I know. But," Loretta continued gently, "don't let fear make you close off completely. Some people do change. Not many, but some." Nia looked at her aunt. "How do you know which ones?" "You watch. You wait. You see if their actions match their words over time." Loretta reached over and patted Nia's hand. "And you trust your gut. It'll tell you the truth." Sunday came, and with it, breakfast at Rosie's Diner, a small, cheerful place 2 blocks from the bus stop. Nia arrived first and claimed a booth near the window. Jules showed up 5 minutes later, hair still damp from a shower. "Morning," Jules said, sliding into the seat across from her. I needed this. They ordered coffee and pancakes and spent the next hour talking about everything except work. Jules's mother's upcoming birthday, Nia's plans to fix the bathroom leak, a new show they were both watching. It felt normal. Good. But eventually, Jules circled back. So, Graham Whitmore, Nia groaned. What about him? He's been different lately. Even Donnelly noticed. She said he volunteered to help reorganize the storage room yesterday. He what? Right? Graham Whitmore, reorganizing storage. Jules shook her head. Either he's genuinely trying to change, or he's running the longest con in history. I'm voting for con. Are you, though? Nia stirred her coffee, not answering. Jules leaned forward. Look, I'm not saying trust him. I'm just saying people surprise you sometimes, and he does seem genuinely sorry. Sorry isn't enough. No, Jules agreed. But it's a start. The afternoon shift at the Meridian began with controlled chaos. A large corporate lunch had been scheduled, then moved up by 30 minutes, throwing off the entire setup timeline. Staff rushed to adjust table arrangements, recalibrate catering times, and ensure everything looked perfect. Nia was in the middle of repositioning centerpieces when Graham appeared. Can I help? He asked. She looked up, surprised. You don't need to. I know, but I'm here. What can I do? Nia hesitated, then gestured to a stack of linens. Those need to go to tables 8 through 12. On it, he picked up the stack and headed across the ballroom. Jules, passing by with a tray of glassware, raised her eyebrows at Nia. Nia just shrugged. The event went smoothly despite the time crunch. By the time the last guest left and breakdown began, Nia's feet ached and her back was tight, but she felt satisfied. They'd pulled it off. She was collecting abandoned coffee cups from a side table when Graham approached. You handled that time change really well, he said. I've seen corporate teams fall apart over less. We're professionals, Nia replied simply. I'm starting to realize that. He paused. Can I ask you something? Nia set down the cups and turned to face him. Okay. Why do you work so hard? I mean, I've watched you this past week. You're always the first one to jump in, the last one to leave. You pulled Marcus out of the way of those vases even though you got hurt. Why? Nia studied him for a long moment. Because this job matters. It pays my bills, keeps a roof over my head and my aunt's head. Because I'm good at it, and I take pride in doing things right. And because... She stopped, then continued quietly. Because I need to prove that I belong here. Every single day. Graham's expression shifted, something that looked like shame mixed with understanding. You shouldn't have to prove that, he said. But I do. You know why? Because of people like you. People who look at me and see poor black woman before they see capable professional. The words hung between them, honest and sharp. Graham nodded slowly. You're right. And I'm sorry. Not just for what I said that night, but for all of it. The assumptions, the entitlement, the way I've moved through the world thinking it owed me something. Nia felt her defenses waver slightly. There was something raw in his voice, something genuine. Thank you for saying that, she said quietly. They stood there for a moment in the partially dismantled ballroom, two people from completely different worlds trying to find common ground. I should finish up, Nia said finally. Right, of course. But as she turned away, Graham spoke again. Nia, she looked back. I mean it, about being sorry, and I'm going to keep proving it, however long it takes. Nia didn't respond. She just nodded once and returned to her work. But something had shifted, just a little. Monday brought rain again, heavy, relentless, turning the city streets into rivers. Nia's bus was delayed, making her late for her shift. She arrived frazzled and damp, changing quickly into her uniform. The day was busy with back-to-back events. Nia moved through them mechanically, her mind half occupied with Tuesday's problem, Loretta's doctor appointment. During her afternoon break, she texted Donnelly. Any chance I could start late on Tuesday? Family emergency. Donnelly's response came 5 minutes later. Can't spare you. Big luncheon, already short-staffed. Sorry. Nia stared at her phone, frustration building. She couldn't miss the appointment. Loretta needed her, but she also couldn't miss work without consequences. She was still trying to figure out a solution when her shift ended. She clocked out and headed for the employee exit, exhausted and stressed. The rain had stopped, but the evening air was cold. Nia pulled her jacket tight and started walking toward the bus stop. "Excuse me, miss?" She turned. A man stood near the alley beside the hotel, scruffy, agitated, eyes darting. He took a step toward her. "You got any money?" Nia's pulse spiked. "No, sorry." "Come on, just a few dollars." He moved closer. "I see you coming out of that fancy hotel. You got money." "I don't. Please, I need to catch my bus." She tried to walk past him. He grabbed her arm. "Let go," Nia said firmly, pulling back. "Just give me." She said let go. Graham's voice cut through the tension. He appeared from the hotel's side entrance, his expression calm but firm. He didn't touch the man, didn't threaten. He just stood there, creating a presence. The man looked between them, then released Nia's arm and backed away. "Whatever, man." He walked off quickly. Nia exhaled shakily, her heart pounding. Graham turned to her. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Did he hurt you?" "No, just startled me." Graham looked like he wanted to do something, call security, chase the guy down, but he held back. "Do you want me to wait with you until your bus comes?" Nia hesitated. Everything in her wanted to say no, to maintain her independence, but her hands were shaking, and the thought of standing alone at the bus stop right now made her stomach tight. "Yes," she said quietly. "Thank you." They walked to the bus stop together, maintaining a respectful distance. Graham didn't try to fill the silence with empty conversation. He just stayed. After a few minutes, Nia spoke. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you trying so hard? To be different, I mean. People don't usually change just because they said something cruel." Graham was quiet for a moment, watching cars pass on the wet street. "My whole life, I've done what was expected. Gone to the right schools, taken the right job, said the right things. And I thought that made me good. But watching you this past week, the way you work, the way you care about people, the way you kept your dignity even when I tried to take it away, it made me realize I've never actually chosen to be good. I've just followed a script." He turned to look at her. "I don't want to follow the script anymore. I want to be someone who deserves respect because of how I treat people, not because of my last name." Nia studied his face. In the streetlight, he looked younger somehow, less polished, more real. "That's going to be hard," she said. "Your world doesn't reward that kind of honesty." "I know, but maybe it should." The bus appeared in the distance. Nia gathered her bag. "Graham?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for tonight, for standing there." "Anyone would have—" "No," Nia interrupted gently. "Not everyone, but you did." The bus pulled up. Nia climbed aboard, found a seat near the window. As the bus pulled away, she looked back. Graham was still standing there, watching to make sure she got on safely. Something warm flickered in her chest. Not trust, not yet, but possibility. That night, Nia sat on her bed with her phone, staring at her calendar. Tuesday was circled in red. Loretta's appointment. There had to be a solution. There had to be. She thought about Graham's offer from days ago. If you ever need help. Her pride resisted, but desperation and love for her aunt were stronger. She opened her messages and found Graham's number. He'd given it to all primary staff for scheduling coordination. She'd never used it. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, "I might be late to my shift on Tuesday. Family thing. If there's any way to delay my station assignment, it would help." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came 3 minutes later. "I'll coordinate with Donnelly. What time do you need?" Nia closed her eyes, relief washing over her. "I can be there by 12:30. Done. And Nia, I hope everything's okay with your family." She stared at that message for a long time. Then she typed, "Thank you." Tuesday morning, Nia and Loretta sat in the clinic waiting room. It was clean but worn. Plastic chairs, outdated magazines, fluorescent lights that hummed. Loretta clutched her purse in her lap, anxiety evident in every line of her face. "It's just a checkup," Nia reminded her gently. "I know, I just hate doctors." "I know you do." Nia's phone buzzed. A text from Donnelly. "Graham moved your start time to 12:30. All set. Relief flooded through her. She texted back, "Thank you." The appointment took longer than expected. By the time they finished, it was almost noon. Nia got Loretta settled in a taxi home, a luxury she normally couldn't afford, but today wasn't normal, then rushed to catch her bus. She arrived at the Meridian at 12:25, breathless and stressed. She changed quickly and hurried to the ballroom. Jules was at the setup station, already working. She looked up when Nia arrived. "Thank God. I've been covering your section, and Donnelly's been on my case about timing. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize to me. Just get to work." Nia jumped in immediately, but she noticed the tension in Jules's shoulders, the sharp way she moved. She'd put her friend in a difficult position. Guilt gnawed at her. The luncheon went smoothly, but Nia could feel the resentment from some of the other staff. Sarah from catering made a pointed comment about special treatment. Marcus avoided eye contact. By the time the event ended, Nia felt exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical work. She was restocking linens when Graham appeared. "How did the appointment go?" Nia looked up, surprised he remembered. "Fine. My aunt's okay." "Good. I'm glad." He paused. "And you made your shift. That's good too." "I put people out. Jules had to cover for me, and now she's dealing with resentment from the team." "That's not your fault." "It feels like it is." Graham was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling an impossible situation with a lot of grace." Nia didn't know what to say to that. "Anyway," Graham continued, "I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I'll let you get back to work." He walked away before she could respond. Nia stood there, holding a stack of napkins, feeling off balance in a way she couldn't quite name. That evening, Nia walked home instead of taking the bus. She needed to think, to process. Graham had helped her today, not for show, not for credit, just because she'd asked. And in the alley last night, he'd stood beside her without making it about him, without performing rescue or demanding gratitude. Small things, consistent things. You watch, you wait, you see if their actions match their words over time. Loretta's advice echoed in her mind. Maybe, just maybe, Graham Whitmore was actually trying. When Nia reached her building, she found Graham's car parked at the curb. He was leaning against it, holding something. "Hey," he said when he saw her. "I hope this isn't weird. You left this at the hotel." He held out her notebook, the one she used to track her schedule and bills. Nia took it, confused. "I didn't realize I'd lost it." "It was under the service station. I figured you'd want it back." He paused. "And I brought these, just as a thank you for letting me help today." He gestured to a bag of groceries sitting on the hood of his car. Nothing extravagant, just basics. Bread, milk, fruit, pasta. Nia stared at the bag, emotions warring inside her. This felt too much like charity, but it also felt like someone paying attention, noticing. "You didn't have to, I know, but I wanted to." Graham's voice was gentle. "Can I carry them upstairs for you?" Nia hesitated. Her pride said no. Her aching feet and tired body said yes. "Okay," she said quietly, "but just to the door." They walked up together in silence. At her apartment door, Graham set down the bag carefully. "Thank you," Nia said. "You're welcome." He turned to leave, but Loretta opened the door behind them. "Nia, you coming in or?" She stopped, seeing Graham, her eyes sharpened with protective assessment. "Auntie, this is Graham. He works at the hotel. He was just returning something I left." Graham extended his hand. "It's nice to meet you, ma'am." Loretta shook his hand, her gaze unwavering. "You're the one who helped with the appointment today?" Graham blinked, surprised Nia had mentioned it. "I just coordinated scheduling. It wasn't a big deal." "It was to us," Loretta said firmly. Then, after a long moment, she stepped back. "Would you like to come in for some tea?" "Auntie," Nia started. "Hush, the man helped you. Least we can do is offer him tea." Graham looked at Nia, asking permission without words. She nodded slowly. "Come in." The apartment was small and humble, but clean and warm. Loretta directed Graham to the kitchen table while Nia put the groceries away. Graham sat carefully, like he was afraid of breaking something. Loretta made tea with practiced efficiency despite her arthritis, then sat across from Graham. "So," she said, "what are your intentions with my niece?" "Auntie," Nia's face flushed. "What? It's a fair question." Graham met Loretta's eyes steadily. Honestly, I don't know yet. I said something cruel to Nia a couple of weeks ago, something I deeply regret. I'm trying to be better, to prove that I'm not the person who said those words. Whether she ever forgives me or trusts me, that's her choice. But I'll keep trying either way. Loretta studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. At least you're honest. They drank tea and talked, carefully at first, then more naturally. Graham asked about Loretta's life, and she shared stories about raising Nia. Nia watched the interaction, amazed at how easily her aunt drew Graham out, made him laugh, made him real. After 30 minutes, Graham stood. I should go. Thank you for the tea, Ms. Carter. Loretta, and you're welcome back any time. Graham smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. Thank you. Nia walked him to the door. In the hallway, Graham turned to her. Your aunt is amazing, he said. She is. And so are you. Nia felt heat rise to her cheeks. Good night, Graham. Good night. After he left, Nia returned to the kitchen. Loretta was clearing the cups, a small smile on her face. He looked at you like you mattered, Loretta said quietly. Nia's heart fluttered. Don't read into it. Baby, I'm old. I know what I see. Later that night, lying in bed, Nia felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safe. Not entirely. Not yet. But there was a crack in her armor, and light was starting to seep through. Her phone buzzed, a text from Graham. Home safe. Thank you for letting me in tonight, and tell Loretta her tea was the best I've ever had. Nia smiled despite herself. She typed back, text me when you get home. Then she froze, realizing what she'd written. That was intimate, a sign of caring. Before she could delete it, 3 dots appeared. Then, already home. But I'll remember that for next time. Next time. Nia set down her phone, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. Outside her window, headlights swept past. The city hummed with its usual nighttime rhythm, and somewhere across town, Graham Whitmore sat in his apartment, probably thinking about the same thing she was. Maybe this was the beginning of something, or maybe it was just a moment. But right now, in the quiet dark, it felt like hope. The next day arrived with a sense of foreboding that Nia couldn't shake. She woke early, her stomach tight with anxiety she couldn't name. By the time she reached the Meridian, the feeling had intensified. The hotel was buzzing with preparation for the evening's main event, the Whitmore Corporation board dinner. It was the culmination of 2 weeks of events, the biggest and most important gathering yet. Nia reported to the pre-shift meeting, where Donnelly outlined assignments. This is high profile, Donnelly said, her tone leaving no room for error. Board members, major investors, family. Everything needs to be perfect. Nia, your lead server for the main dining room. Nia's stomach dropped. Can I request a different assignment? Donnelly frowned. Why? Because Graham would be there. Because his mother would be there. Because Nia had the distinct feeling she was about to be put on display in a way that terrified her. But she couldn't say any of that. Just a preference, Nia said weakly. We need our best in that room. You're our best. That's final. Nia nodded, defeated. Jules caught her afterward. You okay? No, but I don't have a choice. The afternoon passed in a blur of setup. The main dining room was transformed into something elegant and intimidating. Crystal chandeliers, white orchid centerpieces, place settings that probably cost more than Nia's monthly rent. By 5 o'clock, Nia was dressed in her formal service uniform, black dress, white collar, hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked professional, invisible. That's what she needed to be tonight. Invisible. But when the guests began arriving at 6, Nia realized invisibility wouldn't be possible. Graham entered with a woman on his arm, tall, blonde, beautiful in a cold sort of way. She wore a designer dress in diamonds that caught the light. Her smile was practiced, her posture perfect. Mara Sloan. Nia recognized her from photos in the business section of the newspaper. Graham's ex-girlfriend. Old money, old connections. Nia's chest tightened. Graham's eyes found hers across the room. He looked uncomfortable, trapped. But he didn't pull away from Mara. He didn't say anything. He just looked at Nia with an expression that might have been apology. Then he turned away. Nia forced herself to breathe. She moved through the room with mechanical precision, seating guests, taking drink orders, maintaining her professional mask. An older woman entered, 60-ish, impeccably dressed, with sharp eyes and an air of absolute control. Evelyn Whitmore, Graham's mother. Nia had seen her photo in company materials. Evelyn surveyed the room like a general inspecting troops, then took her seat at the head table. Graham sat beside her, Mara on his other side. The evening progressed with painful slowness. Nia served courses, refilled wine glasses, cleared plates. She stayed professional, polite, invisible, but she felt every glance, every whisper. Then came the toasts. An older board member stood first, praising the company's quarterly results. Then Evelyn stood, her voice commanding the room. "To another successful year," she said, raising her glass, "and to the future of Whitmore Corporation, secured by the dedication of family and the strength of our values." Polite applause. Then Mara stood. "If I may?" Evelyn smiled. "Of course." Mara raised her glass, her voice honey-sweet. "I just want to say how wonderful it is to be back in this circle. Graham and I have such a strong foundation together, built on understanding, on shared values, on knowing our place in the world." She paused, her eyes sweeping the room. They landed on Nia for just a moment. "There have been some misunderstandings recently, some drama with hotel staff making accusations, seeking attention." Mara's smile didn't waver. "But Graham and I both know that real class means rising above that kind of behavior. It means surrounding yourself with people who understand excellence." A few uncomfortable laughs. A few people shifted in their seats. Graham's jaw was tight. His face had gone pale. But he didn't stand. He didn't speak. Evelyn was watching him, her expression unreadable but powerful. A silent command. Mara continued. "So here's to ignoring distractions and focusing on what truly matters, to Graham, to family, and to knowing where we belong." She sat down to scattered applause. Nia stood near the service station, her face burning. Her hands were steady, but only because she was gripping the tray so hard her knuckles had gone white. Every word had been designed to humiliate her. Every word had landed. And Graham had said nothing. The dinner continued. Nia finished her service professionally, because that's what she did. She served the final course. She cleared plates. She smiled when required. But inside, something was breaking. When the guests finally moved to the reception room for coffee and networking, Nia slipped out to the back hallway. The one staff used, the one hidden from view. She pressed her back against the cold wall and closed her eyes. Her breath came in short gasps. She was not going to cry. She was not. Her phone buzzed. A call from Graham. She declined it. It buzzed again. She declined again. Then a voicemail notification appeared. Nia lifted the phone to her ear. "Nia, please." Graham's voice was strained. "I know what that looked like. I know what I did. I froze. I let her say those things, and I said nothing, and I—" A pause, heavy breathing. "I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. Please." Nia hung up. She opened her messages and typed carefully. "Don't contact me again." Then she turned off her phone, collected her things, and walked out the employee entrance into the cold night. The walk home took an hour. Nia needed the time, needed the physical exhaustion to match the emotional devastation. By the time she climbed the stairs to her apartment, her feet ached and her eyes burned. Loretta was still awake, sitting in her recliner with the TV on low. "Baby?" She looked up, immediately concerned. "What happened?" Nia tried to speak, couldn't. The tears she'd held back all night finally broke through. Loretta was up in an instant, arthritis be damned. She pulled Nia into her arms and held her while she cried. "Tell me," Loretta said softly. So Nia told her. About the dinner, about Mara's speech, about Graham's silence. "He just sat there," Nia whispered. "He looked uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything. He let her humiliate me in front of everyone." Loretta's expression hardened. "Then he's not the man I thought he was." "I was starting to trust him." Nia's voice broke. "I was starting to think maybe, I know, baby. I know." They sat together on the couch, Loretta stroking Nia's hair like she had when Nia was small, and the world felt too big and scary. "What do I do?" Nia asked. "You protect yourself. You ask Donnelly for a different assignment, even if it costs you hours. You remember who you are, strong, capable, worthy, And you don't let anyone make you forget again. Nia nodded, exhausted. And baby? Loretta's voice was fierce. If he tries to talk to you, you make him earn it. Words are easy. Actions are what matter. Morning came gray and cold. Nia woke with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. She made coffee, helped Loretta with breakfast, and sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. There was a knock at the door. Nia opened it to find Jules standing there with 2 coffees and a bag of pastries. I heard, Jules said simply. Can I come in? Nia stepped aside. They sat at the table while Loretta gave them space. Sarah's been running her mouth, Jules said, saying you're causing problems and can't handle working with important people. It's bullshit, but people are listening. Nia closed her eyes. Of course they are. I shut it down where I could, but Nia. Jules reached across the table. You need to talk to Donnelly. Request a transfer to a different team. I will. Today. It might mean fewer hours. I know. Nia's voice was flat. But I can't do this anymore. I can't keep putting myself in situations where I'm treated like I'm less than human. Jules squeezed her hand. You deserve so much better than this. After Jules left, Nia dressed carefully and headed to the Meridian. Her resolve felt fragile, but real. She found Donnelly in her office reviewing schedules. Ms. Donnelly, can I speak with you? Of course. Come in. Donnelly gestured to a chair. Is this about last night? Nia blinked. You heard? I hear everything that happens in my hotel. Donnelly's expression softened slightly. Mara Sloan's speech was inappropriate. I've already filed a complaint with Whitmore Corporation. You did? My staff deserves respect, all of them. Donnelly leaned forward. What do you need, Nia? A different assignment, away from the Whitmore account, even if it means reduced hours. Donnelly was quiet for a long moment. That's a significant financial impact. I know, but I need it. Okay, I'll reassign you starting tomorrow. You'll be on the general events rotation, varied clients, varied shifts. Hours will be less predictable, but you'll be away from Whitmore. Relief flooded through Nia. Thank you. You're a good employee, Nia. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Across town, Graham sat in his father's home office, his head in his hands. Caleb Whitmore stood by the window, arms crossed, disappointment evident in every line of his body. Tell me what happened, Caleb said quietly. Graham had driven straight here after the disastrous dinner. He'd barely slept. He needed his father, the one person who might understand. I froze, Graham said, his voice rough. Mara gave that speech, attacking Nia in front of everyone, and I just froze. Mother was staring at me. The board was watching. And I told myself I'd fix it later. I'd explain, but he looked up. I chose my comfort over Nia's dignity. After everything I said about being different, about changing, I proved I'm still the same entitled coward. Caleb was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice harder than Graham had ever heard it. Silence was your choice, Graham. You chose the room's approval over doing what was right. You chose your mother's control over standing up for someone who deserved defending. The words hit like physical blows. I know, Graham whispered. Knowing isn't enough. What are you going to do about it? Graham stood, pacing. I tried calling. She won't answer. She told me not to contact her. Then respect that boundary. But I need to explain. No. Caleb's voice cut through. You need to fix what you broke, not with words, with actions, real ones. Graham stopped pacing. How? That's for you to figure out. But I'll tell you this. If you want to be a man worth respecting, you need to stop caring more about what the room thinks than what's right, even if it costs you everything. That night, Graham sat in his apartment staring at his phone. He'd drafted a dozen messages to Nia, deleted them all. She'd asked him not to contact her, so he wouldn't. But he could do other things. He opened his laptop and began typing, an email to Donnelly requesting a meeting, then another email, this one to his mother. Words weren't enough, but they were a start. And tomorrow, he'd take the harder steps. The next morning, Graham walked into his mother's office without an appointment. Graham, I'm in the middle. I need to talk to you now. Evelyn's eyebrows rose, but she dismissed her assistant with a wave. Graham closed the door and faced her. I'm ending the arrangement with Mara. Excuse me? I'm not going to pretend we're together for the sake of image. I'm not going to use her to manage perception. It's dishonest, and it's hurting someone who doesn't deserve it. Evelyn stood, her expression cold. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being honest, for the first time in my life. Graham's voice was steady now. I let Mara humiliate Nia at the dinner. I sat there and said nothing because I was afraid of what you'd think, what the board would think, and that makes me complicit. That server has obviously gotten into your head. Her name is Nia, Graham interrupted, and she's not the problem. We are. This family's obsession with appearance over integrity, that's the problem. Evelyn's face flushed with anger. You're going to throw away everything we've built for some infatuation with a hotel worker? I'm going to stop living my life by your rules. I'm going to start making decisions based on what's right, not what looks good. Graham, if you do this, then what? You'll cut me off? Fire me? Graham met her eyes. Do it. If the only way I can keep this life is by compromising my values, then it deserves to be ruined. The silence was deafening. Finally, Evelyn spoke, her voice ice. Get out of my office. Graham left, his heart pounding. He'd just burned a bridge he'd spent his entire life building. It felt terrifying. It felt right. His next stop was the Meridian. He asked the front desk for Donnelly, who met him in a small conference room. Mr. Whitmore, what can I do for you? I need to speak with Nia Carter, with you present, if possible. I want to apologize properly, on her terms, not mine. Donnelly studied him. She's requested reassignment, away from your account. I know, I don't blame her. Graham took a breath. But I need to take responsibility for what happened, publicly, if she'll allow it. After a long moment, Donnelly nodded. I'll ask her, but Graham, if she says no, you respect that? Absolutely. An hour later, Nia sat in the same conference room, Jules waiting outside, Donnelly present as neutral witness. Graham sat across from her, and for the first time, Nia saw him truly vulnerable. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usually perfect appearance was disheveled. Thank you for meeting with me, he said quietly. Nia said nothing. Graham took a breath. I want to apologize. Not the kind of apology that makes me feel better, the kind that acknowledges what I did and the harm it caused. He looked directly at her. At the board dinner, Mara said things designed to humiliate you. And I sat there. I knew it was wrong, but I was afraid of my mother's disapproval, afraid of what the board would think. I chose my comfort over your dignity. That was cowardice, and it was cruel, and I'm deeply sorry. Nia's throat tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Graham continued. I'm not asking for another chance. I just needed you to hear a real apology, and I need to tell you what I'm doing to make this right. He pulled out his phone and showed her an email. I've asked Donnelly for permission to address the Whitmore team at the hotel, to clarify what happened, to shut down rumors, and to make it clear that disrespecting staff is unacceptable, if you're comfortable with it. Nia read the email slowly. Her hands were shaking slightly. Why? She asked. Why now? Because words without actions are meaningless. Because you told me once, if I want you in any way, I have to choose you when it costs me something. Graham's voice cracked slightly. This morning I told my mother I won't be controlled through shame anymore. I ended the arrangement with Mara, and if it costs me my job, my family's approval, my place in that world. He paused. Then I guess I'll find out who I am without all of it. Nia stared at him. This was more than she'd expected, more than an apology. This was transformation, but she needed to protect herself. If you want me in any way, she said quietly, you choose me when it costs you. Every time, not just once. I will. However long it takes to prove it. Donnelly spoke up. Nia, would you be comfortable with Graham addressing the team? Nia thought about Sarah's gossip, about the whispers, about the way staff had started treating her differently. Yes, she said finally, but keep it short. And Graham? She met his eyes. I'm not going to be your redemption project. I'm not going to exist to prove you've changed. If you do this, you do it because it's right, not because you want something from me. Understood. That afternoon, Graham stood in the staff break room with about 20 hotel employees gathered. Donnelly had approved a brief meeting. I want to address something, Graham began. His voice was steady but humble. 2 weeks ago, I said something cruel and racist to Nia Carter. I humiliated her in public, and at this week's board dinner, I allowed my ex-girlfriend to continue that humiliation while I said nothing. People shifted uncomfortably. Sarah looked down at her shoes. There's been gossip, rumors that Naya did something to deserve it, that she's dramatic or attention-seeking. Graham's voice hardened. That's false. She was professional throughout. I was the one who failed. And I want to make something clear. Don't talk about staff like they're less than you. Don't treat service workers like they're invisible. If I hear of anyone on the Whitmore team doing that, there will be consequences. He paused. That's all. Thank you for your time. He left quickly. The room was silent. Then Jules started clapping. Slowly, others joined. Nia wasn't there. She'd asked not to be. But Jules told her about it later. He did it, Jules said, wonder in her voice. He actually did it. Nia sat on her bed that night, processing everything. Graham had chosen accountability over comfort. He'd confronted his mother. He'd addressed the staff. He'd done the hard things. But trust wasn't built in a day, or even a week. You watch, you wait. Over the next several days, a pattern emerged. Nia worked her new schedule. Varied events, different clients. Graham kept his distance. He didn't corner her, didn't send messages, didn't try to force interaction. But she heard about him. From Jules. Graham reorganized the entire staff recognition program, made sure service workers get the same respect as corporate employees. From Donnelly. He's been volunteering for grunt work, helping with deliveries set up not for show when no one's watching. From Marcus. He apologized to me for the sparkling water thing, said he'd been out of line. Small things, consistent things. On Saturday afternoon, 1 week after the board dinner, Nia finished an early shift and walked outside into unexpected sunshine. Graham was sitting on a bench near the employee entrance. When he saw her, he stood. "Hi," he said cautiously. "Hi. I'm not here to bother you, He took a breath. "Would you be willing to have dinner with me? Somewhere casual, public? You can leave any time, no pressure." Nia studied him. He looked different now, less polished, more real. His shirt was wrinkled. He had faint circles under his eyes. He looked like someone who'd been doing hard work. "Why?" she asked. "Because I want to know you, really know you. Not as someone I hurt and need to fix, but as a person I admire and want in my life." He paused. "And because I think you deserve to ask me the hard questions, to decide for yourself if I'm worth the risk." Nia felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but curiosity, possibility. "Okay," she said, "but I choose the place, and I set the rules. Whatever you need. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock, Rosie's Diner on 5th. I'll be there." Sunday evening, Nia arrived at Rosie's 15 minutes early. She chose a booth near the window where she could see the street, where she could leave if she needed to. Graham arrived at exactly 6, carrying nothing but his phone and keys. He slid into the seat across from her. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm here for answers, not to make you feel better." "I know." The waitress took their orders, burgers and fries, nothing fancy. When she left, Nia leaned forward. "Why did you say it?" she asked. "That night at the gala, why did you say you'd never love a poor black woman?" Graham flinched but didn't look away. "Because I was embarrassed. Because I'd been raised to believe my worth came from being better than other people. And when you corrected my mistake so professionally, so competently, it made me feel small. So I tried to make you smaller." "That's not an excuse." "No, it's not." Graham's voice was quiet. "I was taught that people like you were there to serve people like me. And I never questioned it until I saw the hurt in your eyes that night, until I realized I'd become exactly what I claimed to hate." Nia watched him carefully. "What changed?" "Watching you, seeing the way you worked, with dignity, with pride, with genuine care for people. You saved Marcus from getting hurt. You take care of your aunt. You show up every day and give everything, even when people treat you like you're invisible." He paused. "You made me realize I'd never actually earned anything. I'd just inherited it. And that made me ashamed." Their food arrived. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Nia spoke. 3 years ago, I dated someone. Marcus. Not Marcus from work, different Marcus. He was studying business at the university. We met at a coffee shop where I worked part-time. Graham listened without interrupting. He said he loved me, said his family would understand. But when it got serious, when his parents found out he was dating a black girl with no degree, no family money, they threatened to cut him off. And he chose them. Nia's voice was steady, but Graham could hear the old pain underneath. He told me I wasn't worth losing his inheritance over, that I should understand. Nia, I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I need you to understand. I promised myself I would never be someone's secret shame again. I would never let myself be with someone who had to choose between me and the life they wanted, because I deserve someone who chooses me without hesitation. Graham set down his burger. His eyes were bright with emotion. You do. You deserve that, and so much more. So if this, Nia gestured between them, is going anywhere, I need to know. Can you actually be with someone your family might reject? Someone your world will judge? Can you choose me when it gets hard, not just once, but over and over? Graham was quiet for a long moment. I don't want to own your life or fit you into mine. I want to build something new, with you, where neither of us has to be smaller to make the other comfortable. He reached across the table, palm up, not touching her but offering. I can't promise I won't mess up, but I promise to keep choosing you, honestly, publicly, however long it takes for you to believe it. Nia looked at his hand, at his open expression, at the vulnerability that had replaced entitlement. Slowly, she reached out and placed her hand in his. Steady, she said quietly. Honest. That's the only way this works. Steady and honest, Graham agreed. I can do that. They finished dinner, talking, really talking, about childhood's dreams, fears, about Loretta and her stories, about Graham's father and his quiet rebellion against corporate culture, about the small things that made them laugh. When they left Rosie's, Graham walked Nia to her building but stopped at a respectful distance from the entrance. Thank you, he said, for giving me a chance. Don't make me regret it. I won't. Nia turned to go, then stopped. Graham? Yeah? Text me when you get home. His face lit up with a smile that was pure and genuine. I will. Nia climbed the stairs, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Inside the apartment, Loretta was waiting up. So? Loretta asked. So, maybe, Nia said. Maybe he's real. And if he's not, then I'll survive, like I always do. Nia sat beside her aunt. But I think he might be worth the risk. Loretta pulled her into a hug. Then trust your gut, baby. It's gotten you this far. 2 days later, on a clear Tuesday morning, Nia was making pancakes when her phone rang. Graham. Good morning, she answered. Good morning. Are you free Sunday afternoon? Maybe. Why? My Aunt Loretta said if I was real, I should be able to sit at her table. I'd like to take her up on that. If you're both willing. Nia smiled despite herself. Bring fruit. She likes strawberries. Done. Sunday arrived with gentle sunshine. Graham appeared at 11, carrying a bag of fresh strawberries and a small bouquet of flowers. Nothing extravagant, just cheerful daisies. Loretta answered the door, gave him another assessing look, then stepped aside. Come on in. They made breakfast together, Graham surprisingly competent with a spatula, Loretta directing from her chair, Nia coordinating. It felt natural, easy. They ate at the small kitchen table, talking about everything and nothing. Graham asked Loretta about her life. She told stories that made him laugh. He helped clean up without being asked, fixed the sticky cabinet door that had been bothering Loretta for months, and treated both women with genuine respect. Around 2 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. Nia opened it to find Evelyn Whitmore standing in the hallway. The world seemed to tilt. Mrs. Whitmore, Nia said carefully. Ms. Carter. Evelyn's voice was controlled, but something flickered in her eyes. May I come in? Nia looked back at Graham, who had gone pale. He stood slowly. Mother, what are you doing here? Your father told me where you were. He suggested I come. Evelyn's gaze swept the modest apartment, taking in the worn furniture, the small space, but her expression wasn't disdainful. It was uncertain. Loretta stood, moving carefully. I'm Loretta Carter. This is my home. You're welcome if you come with respect. Evelyn met Loretta's eyes. Something passed between them, a recognition, perhaps, of shared strength. I came to apologize, Evelyn said, the words clearly difficult. To you both. Nia's breath caught. Evelyn turned to her. I've spent my life building walls, protecting the family name, controlling perception, believing that appearances mattered more than people, and I raised my son to do the same. She paused. Your father made me realize I was wrong, not just about you, but about what matters. Graham was staring at his mother like he'd never seen her before. Evelyn continued, her voice softer now. I allowed Mara to humiliate you at the dinner. I watched my son freeze because he was afraid of my judgment, and I've realized that the empire I've built means nothing if it requires cruelty to maintain. She looked at Graham, then back at Nia. I can't undo the past, but I can step back. I can stop controlling through fear, and I can acknowledge that you, Ms. Carter, have more dignity in your smallest gesture than most of the people I've spent my life trying to impress. Nia didn't know what to say. This was not the confrontation she'd expected. Thank you, Nia said finally, for saying that. Evelyn nodded. Then, surprisingly, she turned to Loretta. You raised a remarkable woman. Loretta lifted her chin. I know. A small smile crossed Evelyn's face, the first genuine emotion Nia had seen from her. I won't intrude further. But Graham, she looked at her son. I'm proud of you for choosing integrity. That takes more courage than I ever gave you credit for. She left quietly. Graham stood frozen, processing. Did that just happen? He whispered. I think so, Nia said. Loretta settled back into her chair, a satisfied look on her face. Now that's a woman who's done some hard thinking. The rest of the afternoon passed in a gentle blur. They watched an old movie, talked, laughed. Graham and Nia sat on the couch, not touching but close, while Loretta dozed in her recliner. As evening approached, Graham stood to leave. At the door, he turned to Nia. I know this is still new, still uncertain, but I want you to know, he took her hand carefully. I'm not managing my life through fear anymore. I'm choosing you, openly, however messy it gets. Nia squeezed his hand. Steady. Honest. Steady and honest, he repeated. That's the only way. He left and Nia returned to find Loretta awake and smiling. That's a good man, Loretta said. Yeah, Nia agreed softly. I think he is. A week later, Nia finished an evening shift and walked outside into warm twilight. Graham was waiting by his car, hands in his pockets. Hi, he said. Hi. Want to take a walk? Sure. They walked through the neighborhood as streetlights flickered on. Children played on porches. Music drifted from open windows. Normal life, beautiful in its ordinariness. Graham took her hand. Nia led him. I keep thinking about something you said, Graham murmured. About fate. What about it? You said maybe fate didn't punish me. Maybe it taught me. He stopped walking, turned to face her. You taught me. You showed me what real strength looks like, what dignity means, what it costs to be kind in a world that rewards cruelty. Nia's eyes stung with unexpected tears. And you taught me something too, she said, that second chances are real, that people can change if they choose to, that safe love exists, love that doesn't require me to be smaller or quieter or less. Graham lifted his free hand and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning. But I know this. I want to build a life where we both get to be fully ourselves, where neither of us has to hide or compromise our truth. That sounds good, Nia whispered. They continued walking, hand in hand, while the city hummed around them. Above them, Loretta watched from the apartment window, a smile on her weathered face. She'd raised Nia to be strong, to protect herself, to never accept less than she deserved. And now, finally, Nia had found someone worthy. Nia looked up at Graham, at the man who'd started as her tormentor and become something else, something real. You know what? She said. What? Maybe fate didn't punish you. Maybe it taught you. She smiled. And maybe it finally gave me someone safe. Graham pulled her close, and she let herself lean into his warmth, not surrendering, not losing herself, just trusting. For the first time in a long time, trusting felt right. They walked home together through streets that had witnessed struggle and hope, cruelty and redemption. And in the fading light of a perfect evening, Two people from different worlds found common ground in dignity, in choice, in love that was earned, not given, in the promise of steady and honest tomorrows.